Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Company built an illegal factory on my property and destroyed my farmland while I was absent." Hey everybody, I am from South Africa and want to tell you what happened when I ended up leaving my property unattended for a year. The reason I left was because I met the most amazing girl in the world and took a year abroad to spend with her and ended up proposing to her too. By the time everything got settled and I was ready to come back to South Africa with my wife, I noticed that things had been going wrong for the entire year. My happy bubble had been burst and replaced with seething anger when I saw that my land had been totally destroyed. My property was almost complete farmland except for my house and was left without anything growing while I was gone. It was good because I was treating the ground and giving it a chance to rest and get strong again during the break. People might have heard about crop rotation, where you give areas rest before planting more there. My wife had never seen the land and was actually very excited to see it and just jump right into that life with me. I really felt like I had hit the jackpot of luck when it came to her. When we got there though, the only thing that seemed to still be there was my house. The area that was my farmland was covered with a factory that was fenced in, and I could not even park my truck where I usually would. I had no idea what was going on and who gave somebody permission to build a factory right on my land. The worst part was that I had zero idea where to start looking to find out what had happened. I could not find any way to get through the gate and into the actual factory to speak to somebody. It is really because of other stories that I thought I could go into town and see what was going on with my land. So, thank you internet for unknowingly preparing me for this situation. It turns out that while my neighbor did file to have a factory built and get it approved, it was not supposed to be on my land. It was supposed to be on land that he owned right next to mine. I told them that he built it on mine and they told me they would send somebody out to look at the land and where the factory was placed. We were not home when that happened, but I knew that it did because my neighbor showed up afterwards to talk to me. Neighbor, wow, I did not think you would be back so soon. Me, so you thought you could just build a factory on my land and I was never going to come back and find out about it? Neighbor, okay, look, I don't want to start a whole fight about this. You were gone for a year and I really didn't think that you were coming back. The land was going to waste and this was a good use for it. Me, I saw the building permit. It was filed only a month after I was gone. You did not think I abandoned the place. You just wanted to take advantage. Neighbor, whoa, listen farm boy, I would watch my tone if I was you. I have a pretty decent business now and I can afford a better lawyer than a farmer that grows grain. That statement basically summed up everything. He did this because he thought that with enough money he could win any trial and keep the factory on my land. He was in for a huge wake-up call because I was not going to fall for his intimidation. I went out with my wife and we found the best lawyer that we could afford and explained the situation to him. He was confident that he could win a lawsuit against the neighbor. We went after him for 15 million rand, which for the purpose of this story, I am going to refer to it as the dollar equivalent of $1 million. He got himself a lawyer and after a long wait, we went to court to talk about the situation in front of a judge. My neighbor was sticking to his argument that he was convinced the lot was abandoned and free for him to use. Meanwhile though, I had the evidence that his permit was to build on his land and that he started building on my land only a little while after I was gone. I guess he did not think I was smart enough to bring or even get that kind of evidence because you could tell that he was starting to get nervous. Mainly because his entire argument shifted from being allowed to use the land to it not being worth $1 million. Some of you might think the same thing because it was just a farm and nothing seemed to be destroyed. Let me explain a little bit of where I got that number and why it was not just me trying to get as much money as possible. For starters, he was using my land for almost a year without paying any kind of rent to the owner, meaning me. It was a big space and that alone would add up to a decent amount on its own. The main issue was that even if the factory got removed, the ground underneath it was now ruined and not suitable for planting anymore. It would take a long time to try and get the soil healthy enough for a crop to grow as well as it would have before. So, while no buildings were destroyed, to a degree the land was destroyed, and that is my livelihood. I had science to back me up on that fact. Meanwhile, he was left with no real argument to why his factory had to be on my land. The original solution was not exactly what I wanted, because while I did get the money, they were not forcing the neighbor to tear down the factory. It went against some statute to dismantle a factory being used to produce necessary materials. I think the factory was helping making some microchips that the government was actually using, unless it was bankrupt or considered a danger. At first I was just going to take the money and maybe find somewhere else to move, even though I loved my farm and did not want to leave it. Anyway, it turns out that due to some very poor financing on the part of my neighbor, he was pocketing and then promptly spending most of the profit. He didn't just have that kind of money to give me in the settlement. He had to declare the company bankrupt in order to get the money to pay me. Out of luck from that, the factory was allowed to be taken down and I could have all of my land back to try and salvage what I could. The neighbor also ended up moving shortly after, and I don't know if it was because of finances or because he wanted to get away from me. Either way, it was a win. As for me, I know that it sounds like a lot of money, but trust me when I say that most of it went back into the farm. The ground needed a lot of work to grow healthy enough, and in that time I was not able to grow any grain or make money from it. My wife really loved animals and suggested we get a barn and some cows in the meantime. A chunk of the money went to that, and it was the best idea because I love the cows and they are able to give up a small amount of profit from the milk. The rest of the money will tie us over until I can grow grains and get steady income again. I just hope that neighbor is not off trying to pull a fast one on someone else that might not have the courage to fight back. And yeah, ripe stars, what is it with neighbors, or in general, entitled people trying to steal your property? Or well, in this case, not even only stealing, but also building something on your property that was clearly not allowed. I guess living in rural areas is not the biggest guarantee anymore that you will actually live in peace, considering how entitled people have become. Either way, if you still enjoy the stories about entitled people and crazy neighbors, then please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and maybe even like the video if you want to support me. The next one is titled, I got my neighbors in trouble. My neighbors down the street live on over an acre of property with a large driveway and garage. And they have 4 cars that total to about $450,000. Money and space are not an issue. We live on a tight cul-de-sac and they leave their cars on the street for days, sometimes a week on end. They've had $125,000 cars with no plates towed here in the middle of the night and left one in front of my house for a week. Police finally ticketed that one for abandonment with threat of towing. They have double parked their cars on the street side by side for hours during the day. Other neighbor cannot put their trash out. Some days I can barely get out of my driveway in my Prius, let alone get our trailer out. They've had a mobile car wash to do their cars in front of my house, covering our plants with soap, etc. They have even sat in their car while the trash truck honks at them to move because they are so far into the street he cannot make the turn. She refused to move her car and the trash guy had to do like a 9-point turn, almost hitting a mailbox. All the while their driveway sits empty down the street. They are not friendly at all. They actually scare me a little bit, so I am afraid to discuss it with them, and my other neighbors already tried. It's all petty crap, so I've just put up with it, but my neighbors are also sick of it, so after 2 years I called parking enforcement. They'll be getting tickets tonight as it is illegal to leave your cars on the street overnight. Update to the story: they must have gotten tickets because they've had their cars in the driveway for the last 24 hours. I cannot remember a day where that has happened. Thank you all for your support. I didn't want to be a jerk, but this morning was so nice being able to just back out of my driveway. I can even get my truck and trailer out when I need to. The next one is titled, I got my neighbors evicted. I live in a townhome community that has an HOA, which means Homeowners Association, that enforces the rules of the community. I own my home and have been living here for about 5 years. The home next door to me is directly attached to my home, and the owner rented the home out to a single mom and her 2 little girls. I hardly saw the mom, but the girls would be out back playing in the strip of grass that ran the length of their yard, my yard, and the home on the other side of me. While they were not really bothering me, I did not like that they would run through my yard even though it is maintained by the HOA. This made it hard for me to have my dog outside to go to the bathroom because he would get distracted and always try and run over to the girls. And the girls would egg him on. I mentioned something to the mom, but she did not seem to care much about my problem and still let her girls run wild. Another instance is last year. The mom lets the girls plant pumpkin seeds in the yard, and well, anyone knows how pumpkins grow know that they have no boundaries, and the vines started growing on my side. The lawn mowing company refused to mow because of the vines in the grass, so I had to weed whack the yard myself. It's a very small patch of grass, but I am still paying for lawn service monthly. Well, I reported this to the HOA and they sent someone out to take all the vines and small pumpkins away. The mom was not happy with me even after I explained the inconvenience it caused me. Well, fast forward to a few days ago, I come home from work and the girls are playing on a slip and slide starting from my yard and ending in theirs. I freaked out and went to the mom and said that she needed to get their things and keep her kids off my yard. She said, "It is not my yard," because it's owned by the HOA, and then I said I would contact the HOA, to which she said, "Do your worst." So I did just that and also reported it to the guy who owned the home. I found out last night that he scolded her and told her that they need to be out by the end of May. I found out the HOA has been telling him about the other things I complained about. I feel kind of guilty that I put a single mom and 2 kids out of their home, but I feel it was justified too. And yeah, Ripe Stars, what do you think about the OP in this story? Do you think he did the right thing or not? Let us know in the comments. The next one is titled Beaver Dam Issues. A few years ago, I purchased a few dozen acres of land in a rural area and built a house there. After a lifetime of the hustle and bustle of city life, I love the peace, quiet and serenity that rural living has given me. My nearest neighbors live a couple miles away, and until recently I barely interacted with them. They are a younger couple that inherited the property from one of their families. One of the things that I love best about my property is the variety of wildlife that lives there. I've seen deer, otter, coyote, fox, dozens of species of birds and beaver. There's a small river, more of a large creek than a river, that flows through my property and I live downstream from my neighbors. The beavers have built a dam just a few hundred yards on my side of the property line. Now that the snow here has started to melt, the creek has been running like crazy and the beaver dam has apparently caused quite a bit of flooding on my neighbor's property and caused damage to some outbuildings and cropland. My neighbors came to my house a couple weeks ago and told me about the flooding problems. I was aware of the dam but had no idea of the issues it was causing them. They asked me if I would be willing to remove the dam. I told them that removing a beaver dam is a hell of a lot of work, and unless you remove the beavers, they are just going to rebuild it anyway, so in my opinion, it is not worth it. They asked why I don't just remove the beavers, and I told them I like the beavers. I clarified to them that removing the beavers means terminating them, not just trapping them and bringing them to a new home. They got very upset and frustrated with me because they don't know what else to do about the water. I understand their feelings, I have dealt with water damage before, I know how much it sucks. However, I'm not going to go to the effort of removing a dam just for the beavers to rebuild it again, and I'm not going to remove the beavers. I told them they are free to try and remove the beavers if they are on their land, but even if they do, it is likely more beavers will just move in to fill the void. The husband was getting heated, threatened to sue me, and his wife tried to calm him down, but I told them I would like them to leave. They did, but not before the husband called me an a-hole. The next day I went and found the dam and set up a handful of trail camps in the area just in case. In my opinion, this type of thing is something you have to be willing to deal with if you live in an area that is shared with wildlife. I understand it sucks for my neighbors, and with spring rains coming, it's possible their water issues are only going to get worse, but it is not really my problem. So far, I have not seen anything on the trail camps to make me think they will do something stupid, but I also did not want my closest neighbors to be an enemy. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you would have been in this situation, what would you have done? Would you have gotten rid of the poor cute little beavers? Let us know in the comments. The next one is titled, "Sorry, but I called the cops on your children." I, 25 female, am a single mom to my son, who is 8 years old. After busting for years, I was able to buy an objective house, whatever that is, I'm not sure, sorry, in a low-income area. It's not the best house, I'm having to do quite a bit of work on it, but it is safe and it is home. One of the things I have done to make it a tad bit better is gardening. It does not take up the entire yard, just a garden bed near my porch and another around a tree. I am hoping to eventually put in a few more around the house, but it is expensive and time consuming. I'm proud of what I have accomplished so far. My neighbor Lisa is a single mom of 6 kids. Her 3 youngest, 8M, 7M and 4F, are constantly at my house playing with my son. This is not a problem for me, but I do have to get onto them quite often. These kids are wild. I feel like I'm constantly having to talk to Lisa about their behavior. For the past month I have talked to her almost daily about the kids being in my garden. Watching them does not help, as they even come over when me nor my son is home to play in my yard. I've tried to fix this by putting up anything my son has outside, like bikes, balls, taking the swings off of a swing set, etc., but nothing stops them. They have taken to playing in the garden beds and bringing shovels to dig. I've started getting mad and told Lisa under no circumstances are they allowed in my yard when I'm not home, and they are not allowed in my garden at any time. Finally, this came to a head when I got home 2 days ago. My garden was wrecked. All of my plants were dug up and destroyed, the barrier around the beds was torn apart, and my little garden decorations were smashed and drawn on, and there were so many holes and toys. I was pissed. I went over to Lisa's and admittedly yelled at her about her kids. She yelled back that they were kids and I could not expect to have a garden with kids around. I demanded payment for the damage and she told me to get off of her property. I went home and called the police to report the damage. The cops did not do much, but did tell Lisa that her family was not to come on my property again. I was ranting to my friends about this, and while they do agree that it was wrong, they think I took it too far by calling the cops on such young kids. They think I might have ruined my son's chances at a friend. My son is happy about it though, because he was starting to realize the 2 older of the 3 were using him for his cool stuff. And yeah, Ripe Stars, personally, I would not really say that OP went too far, because in the end there are no consequences for the kids anyway, but instead only for the parent. However, I would like to know what you think about this story. Do you think that OP went too far? And if so, why? Let us know in the comments.
Hey guys, what's up? Unfortunately, something really bad happened today. I came home and I think someone broke into our house. And the thing is, I even saw who broke in. The person I broke in, she made weird noises. I think she was around maybe 1 meter tall. She was really small when she stood up against the window. And yeah, she made our house look like a mess. And I have reason to believe that she's still in the house. That might be her. The thief. The thief is still in the house. For some reason, there's little white hair everywhere. The thief is still here. The intruder. Hiding under my bed. Right. That's the intruder that now likes to chill under my bed and lose a lot of white hair there. Now, but jokes aside, today I was brushing Disney, as I do like pretty much every day, because I was told you should do that with your cats. And to be honest, like, I don't really see that it has a huge benefit if you brush the hair of your cat. Like, she still loses so much hair, but I guess it's just a season for cats to like lose this much hair. It's just crazy how much hair she loses. But yeah, excuse me for my room looking like this. Obviously it's Disney's fault because the little cute fluffy cuddle monster just made a mess while cuddling with me, right, Disney? But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I see you again tomorrow.
And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.